All right, you ready
Yes, sir.
for this? Do you want to introduce this one?
No, you're good.
I'm good. Okay, no, I'm good.
Yes,
I think you would
can do
say,
it.
I think the sentence, and this is the quote, you would say, I'm good, meaning you. I don't think you would tell me that I'm good if I'm asking you to do something. It's like, no, I'm good, thanks, is what you should have said.
I should have. I didn't. I apologize.
So do you want to do this one?
No, I'm good.
At doing this? That's good stuff. All right. You good? No, I'm good.
I think we're both all right.
Hey everyone ever, and welcome to 20th Century Popcast, the show where we try to understand the present while living in the past. My name is Tim Blevins.
And I am Bob Canning.
Did you hear that? My chair was squeaking. That was my chair. Could you hear that? I was kind of pivoting.
That was
and it
very well timed.
That's odd that it picked up. It's not a fart, but I guess one could. I have no proof. I have no proof that it wasn't, because I didn't take a picture of myself.
No,
but yeah, it's a squeaky chair. Welcome to this well-oiled but poorly maintenance chair of a show. How you doing? How are you?
I'm doing okay. I'm feeling all right. I'm old and creaky like your chair. I think.
I know. Which ties in a lot, I think, to our topic this week. Speaking of old and creaky, but yeah, no, usually you're feeling that a little bit. You're feeling. I think we've acknowledged our age on the show, right? We're in our 40s, our early 40s.
Yeah, we've talked about that.
Yeah, I mean, we haven't been forever, but we have been for a couple of years now, since 2015 for myself. Mm-hmm. Was that a big deal when you hit 40? Was that a big birthday? A horrible birthday? Horrible event?
It was fine.
Yeah?
It wasn't a big deal. I didn't make a big deal out of it. There wasn't a big party or a big celebration.
Well, you have a choice. But internally, the feeling, knowing 40 was approaching, the specter of 40, was that not a big deal?
It wasn't a big deal. No, it wasn't.
Was 41?
It really didn't. 41 was crushing. 41 destroyed me. Yeah.
Why is that? Because 40 was huge for me. Why is 41 worse than 40?
I couldn't tell you. There were a lot of other things going on in my life that.
Oh, so maybe
great.
It wasn't age based. Maybe it was something else.
But here's the thing: it wasn't age based, but it was age based.
So
I don't know.
It was two contradicting things.
Yes. Well, 40 seems like for me. 40 was the beginning. You know, it's like, oh, this is the beginning of the next stage of my life.
Was 30 like that? Was that what 30 felt like?
Yeah, I think 30 felt like that too.
Huh.
And so when I hit 41, it was like this next stage of my life has actually started, and it's no different than the previous stage of my life. And I got a little overwhelmed with things, and I think my age had something to do with it. Yes, there were these outside factors that contributed, but that was a rough year for me, and it really hit at my 41st birthday. I literally had a breakdown on the phone, and I'm being pretty open here. I had a breakdown on the phone with my mother and my aunt, who called at the same time because they don't like spending a lot on phone bills, to wish me happy birthday. And I was like, oh, great, thank you so much. And they're like, how are you doing? How's your birthday today so far? And I paused, and I started crying and was like, this sucks. Oh. Everything is wrong. And like I just went off for like a half an hour.
Yeah.
And it was a lot of other things. Like it was a build up through, But yeah, so 41, not so great. 42, loved it. 43, doing good.
So that's where you're at now? You're 43?
I'm at 43, yeah. We're doing good. We got back on track.
No, it's odd. I mean, I hate aging, and I no longer like birthdays. I don't like the progression of this. But and first of all, I'm sorry. That sounds horrible. That your aunt and your mom call at the same time for financial reasons.
Yeah, it's rough, man. It's rough.
But it's the sentence that you said, the thing that hits me odd, but your honesty, first of all, thank you. I'm not brushing over that, but this idea that when you hit 41, it's no different from 40. How did you word that? Do I have to go back and listen to the episode now? The way you said it.
Yeah, basically, yeah, I was saying, like, this is the next stage of my life, but after a year of being 40 and becoming 41, I realized that it was really no different than the previous stage of my life.
Well, what's the last year that felt different? Like what, looking at aging, because I mean, I know like I was fine aging until I hit 30. 30 was the first year where I hit an age that I didn't want to be. I was like, no, I'm leaving my 20s. But so that was kind of a measurement. But most of the time, I feel like 21 is, you drink, you get your ability to legally drink. And you're well out of your teens now. So that makes sense. But yeah, I mean, had you not felt that before?
No, I really hadn't. Like I didn't feel old until I hit 38. And the reason for that is because that's the first age I remember my mother being.
Okay.
So when I was old enough to realize how old my mom was, she was 38. Huh. And so for me, that was a landmark age. So when I hit 38, that was like, oh shit, I'm as old as my mom was when I was a kid.
That'll do it, right? That'll very much do it.
And so that did it.
Huh. Painful. Yeah, why are we talking aging? I don't know. I hate it.
Well, I think we're talking age because we've decided for this episode to look back for today's episode for our experience and our enjoyment and our history with some films from the man Kevin Smith.
Yes, filmmaker Kevin Smith. Right.
Kevin Smith. And I think we're talking age because Kevin Smith had some recent activity that I think we should talk about.
Or lack of activity, if that's how that works.
Perhaps.
Yeah, he just suffered a pretty major heart attack. We're recording this a week before it goes up, so hopefully everything's okay with that.
He seems to be doing well. Mm-hmm. Based on his social media posts that I've been watching.
He's got a big social media presence, which I will be honest, I don't normally follow. I don't normally follow his Twitter. I don't follow his Facebook, but this I did. I sent him even a little message.
Me too.
Just
me
whatever.
too.
Because and here's the thing, Kevin Smith, I think he's known for that now. He's kind of known as, Kevin Smith, the podcaster, Kevin Smith, the TV personality, internet personality.
Storyteller.
I think so, right? Up on a stage telling his stories. And that's great. That's what he does. I haven't really followed Kevin Smith in a while, but I have a pretty entwined, corkscrewed, tight sort of developmental relationship with Kevin Smith through the 90s. When Kevin Smith was not Kevin Smith the podcaster, not Kevin Smith the stand-up comedian, not Kevin Smith whatever he is now, but Kevin Smith the independent film auteur, which kind of seems quaint now. It kind of seems like he makes films. No, he makes bad films, right? But no. In 1994, when I first heard of him, and through the 90s, actually, all of his films in the 90s, which is what we're going to talk about today, he was kind of like this independent films voice of a generation. He was kind of like this breakthrough person who got dialogue, got society. And I think, and maybe he doesn't get credit for this, and I think he should, the world we currently live in, that we can do a podcast like this, a world that wants to hear about pop culture, a world that can cosplay with very little fear of being made fun of, a world that can exchange all of these comic book and cartoon references as actual conversation, not just as one-upmanship. That owes a lot of itself, I think, to Kevin Smith. I think the social environment of Kevin Smith. And it's odd to me because I haven't enjoyed a movie of his probably since 1999. I have not followed his most recent films, but I don't mean that as a knock. And I guess there's no way for that not to sound like one because I'm putting down 20 years or 18 years of his work. But for what we're going to talk about today, we're doing something called OUVRE Compensating. I think I'm mispronouncing the word oeuvre. We're going to look at his 4 films from the 1990s that he released because, for me anyways, those are some of the most impactful, important, and meaningful films socially, creatively, and so many other levels for me in that period. And it's encapsulated because I stopped following him or stopped being enthralled by him shortly at the turn of the century. Do you have a similar relationship with him, or what is your relationship with Kevin Smith and his movies?
My relationship with Kevin Smith is my relationship with Tim Blevins.
Oh.
I've enjoyed the Kevin Smith movies that we're going to talk about, and I discovered Clerks on my own. So Clerks has a special place just with me. Mm-hmm. But Mallrats, Chasing Amy, and Dogma, right?
Those are the 4 films we'll be talking about if you count Clerks.
I couldn't remember if Dogma was the last one. those are intertwined with you and knowing you and living with you and watching those movies with you. That's how I remember these films, those last three. Clerks, again, I discovered on my own, and it holds a special place for that and what I discovered and what it made me think about and what could be done and what we could do. But then the other three for sure are tied to us.
Oh, I'm looking forward to getting into that a little bit because I think I agree, and I think we'll share some notes on that. But to start with when he first hit the scene, Clerks, Kevin Smith's debut film, black and white movie about a couple of guys at a convenience store working a single day there. It opened on a couple conflicting dates on this. I know it opened in the fall of '94. I think October 19th was the date that I found. I also saw a November date. I saw an August date. But I remember first hearing of Clerks, first being aware of Clerks with the trailer for it that ran right in front of Pulp Fiction. We did an episode a little while back where we talked about going to see Pulp Fiction, and we discussed in that episode a lot of what we got out of that movie. And one of the things I got out of that movie was this dingy black and white trailer for this movie about people in a convenience store. A filthy kind of looking, just grainy film that I thought, in seeing this trailer, was a documentary. I thought, this is security camera footage of people at a job. Do you remember the trailer for Clerks? Is that how you first saw it, or what was your introduction to it?
I was at that same viewing, so I'm sure I saw it, but I don't remember that. I don't remember seeing it.
So how'd you find it? How'd you first come across it?
I found it, I had known about it. You know, we went to an art school and filmmakers were there. And I don't know, did you see it in the theater?
I did not. No, that's the one I didn't see. I didn't see it till the following summer. I saw this trailer. It was in my head. And then it kind of drifted away. I didn't know anything. I remember seeing the soundtrack and all, but I just didn't know it through our sophomore year.
I knew of it. I knew it was sort of controversial. I knew it was low budget. I knew
was
it
it controversial? Was it in the?
My memory of it is that it was vulgar. Like that was the controversial aspect of it.
That is a vulgar movie. His movies are vulgar, even by today's standards.
Yeah. And so when I that summer, that was, I believe, the summer
after our junior year, summer of '95. Yeah.
Okay.
Right before junior.
I was renting movies. Yeah, I was renting movies, staying up late, and that was one of the movies I rented and watched it alone at like 11 o'clock at night into the early hours. And I was just, and I had picked it up. I had picked it up because I had heard it was kind of a cool movie, an interesting movie. And that's how I discovered it that summer.
And you watched it kind of, okay, so it was like a little VHS tape, kind of your own private screening. I'm surprised I didn't follow it sooner, because again, that trailer did hit me enough, but then I just blanked out on it for the rest of the year. I didn't think of it. I didn't know of it. I think I may have heard people talk about it here and there. It wasn't, like you said, until the summer, because, like every summer break you would go, or at least I would go back home. I grew up in a small town in Connecticut with my little job I had in high school, which was working at this gas station convenience store thing. And so I would go back to that. I'd go back and see my friends. I remember just when I got back, shortly after getting back and living back with my folks, a friend of mine who lives in the town said, I've got this movie to show you. I rented this movie, Clerks. It's hilarious. This character's hilarious. Everything about it is hilarious. We got to watch it. And whenever somebody presents me with something that way, whenever somebody tries to sell me with something with, you've got to watch this, it's funny, it's this and it's that, my ego kind of tenses up and I'm ready to kind of just disparage it, if that's the right use of the word, which it's not. Just kind of be like, I don't want to see that. But I sat down, I sat there, I watched it, he showed it to me, and he quoted some lines, he would point out the stuff like, you're going to love this, you're going to love that, and that stuff kind of gets in my way a little bit. But still, I saw in this movie something that was just so familiar. I saw in this movie something that was so real.
You're right.
And what I saw was these two guys at a convenience store working at the counter like it was a stage,
Yep.
These two guys who just talked the whole day through, surrounded by the products of the store with their random conversations and, like, snack cakes and deli meats, whatever it is they're eating from the store. And, all the rudimentary tasks of working there, like stocking cigarettes and just the whole aspect of customer service, which honestly, as a job, is pretty much all I've ever done. And in 1994, it was kind of in its infancy because I'd worked at this convenience store gas station for just a couple of years. But seeing it presented in this movie, it was just this idea that what you're doing there, it's like a stage. You got these dull surroundings of a small town gas station, and you're always above them because you're having your dialogues. You're having your pseudo-philosophical conversations about the Death Star, about music, about comic books. Watching that in this movie, how they had these conversations, how they used pop culture to fuel these conversations. I mean, I did that, to a degree, and I'm sure I copied from this, but I had never seen it before. I'm sure plenty of people do that, by the way, but I had never seen that really in a movie. And it just hit me so well that, yeah, this is how you pass time. This is how you imbue a dull, pointless existence with some intellect. This is what you do, and that's the core of this movie, I thought. I mean, did you relate to it? Did it speak to you in that sense?
Oh, completely. Everything you're saying is sort of how I felt. I mean, it was the same situation where, I worked at a Subway restaurant and, had to service the customers and had to sit around all day. In college, I was sitting at the front desk of the student union, and so you're constantly just talking to your coworker and then the people coming in.
Now, in college, did that feel like a job, working the student union? Was that sort of...
No, that never felt like a job, no. But at the same time, it was, like you're saying, this stage. Everyone's got to pass you. Everyone's got to come to you to get whatever they need. And so you have your opportunity to interact with them, interact with your coworkers. And the thing that struck me about it that I liked so much as I was watching it and discovering it is that it's normal, or at least, semi-normal people who I could very well run into just down the street from where I was watching the movie if I wanted to go out and pick up some Pepsi or something.
Right, it was like a small townness to it. I feel like something quaint, something dead end, something helpless in a way.
And I don't know, I might be wrong, but I didn't see prior to this, I didn't seek out or see a lot of movies that were really not about anything, that were just these moments in a day. There was a little bit of a plot. There's a little bit of who's she going to marry kind of thing that was thrown in there, just so you had like a through line, I guess. But really, it was just, here's a little thing that happens, here's another little thing that happens. It's all sort of tied together. But it wasn't like, you had to find the grail or anything like that. It was just hanging out. It was literally just scenes of people sitting there painting nails, literally watching paint dry. But so entertaining and interesting because of the dialogue and what they were talking about and how it related to them.
And they're heroic. You're right. I mean, I don't know if this is the first movie I saw where nothing happened, and I don't even know, I don't know if I was thought of it that way then. People always say that about Seinfeld. It's a show about nothing. It's like, I don't think I ever thought about that. Seinfeld would have been the thing before this, where I'm like, well, that's like a conversation I would have almost. But this, I think this was the first time I felt I was being reflected in something where I could really latch on to these characters. Like, I loved Richard Lewis on TV, and I loved the sitcoms he was in. And by this point, I probably was loving Friends. And so maybe Friends is more like this, where it's like, as a kid, I love these characters who are always older than me. And so I kind of project like, this is what it's like to be an adult. I like watching Richard Lewis's character and Jamie Lee Curtis's character and their sitcom interact. And I hope to do that one day. But this movie, I'm sure I was projecting somehow, but there was a connect there. There was something about that. And part of what was endearing.
It wasn't what you wanted to be. It was kind of what you
Well, I think it was what I wanted to be. That's the thing. That's maybe where the disconnect is. Only because in watching this, the world they inhabit is sad. Dante and Randall, the main characters, this is kind of a sad existence. They're at the dead end. They don't want to change. But the way the movie's presented, the way they are in that movie, is they elevate themselves above everyone else by the sheer nature that they're behind the counter. They get the better jump on people who are coming in to support the business. They have to jump on these people who don't know how the world works. They get to lash out at people as the heroes. And that, sadly, spoke to me. That was necessary. That was helping me. I mean, it was like going to college. I was going out of the small town. I went to big city Boston, and then that summer I'd come back, and suddenly I was the big city guy. Like, I've got this knowledge that my friends don't have. My friends have plenty of knowledge, and many of them have gone on to do great things and whatever, but I had this need to somehow be above my surroundings, to be commenting on it, to be faster and quicker than it. And this movie fed that, I think. These characters fed that. And I don't think I saw the how it's about nothing angle, and I don't think I saw the sadder aspects of these characters. Because, like, have you watched Clerks recently? When was the last time you watched it?
I don't think maybe 6 years ago, 7 years ago, maybe.
Okay, I've gone back to it sooner than that, I have to say. Have you not had the interest in it? Do you not want to see it again?
No, I think it's just a matter of access to it. I don't own it, so I couldn't just pop it in. And maybe it was when I first got Netflix streaming, it was available, and I probably was like, oh, I haven't seen this in a while, let me watch this. And then it just hasn't popped up again.
It is still pretty great. I've watched it within the last couple years, and it is still a great movie. And I don't think I necessarily relate to it, but I think there's nostalgia to it. I think there's this angle of I remember being that. But watching it most recently, I think what I realized was outside of what was in the movie, and I think what Kevin Smith's scripts were speaking to in me, and it sounds like to you, Clerks was also an important, like, independent film, you know, like actual people making a film, because it looked like it was sort of scraped together, you know, like they kind of made it on the weekends. It had only sets they had access to. I work in a convenience store. We'll film in the convenience store. You know, this is probably his house that they're filming in. You know, they're casting friends in the roles, non-actors. It's poorly lit. It's got bad what?
One thing that stood out for me too was that we were accepting of that. It, like you're saying, it's poorly lit. It's all one set. And then when Randall stops watching when he's watching Star Wars, and then he turns it off to go talk about it, the sound effects, you know, obviously you can't get Star Wars. They are so lame. They are so not Star Wars. But we're accepting of that. Well, we were like, you know what? We know what's going on. We know it's a low budget movie, and that didn't bother me. That never bothered me when I watched it. You know, it's like I was aware. Maybe I was aware of it the first time, but then it just was like, you know what? I get what this is, and I was cool with that.
Well, because I think, and you said it before, you know, it's your first film first film you saw about nothing. This is kind of like the first, and it wasn't. I'd seen some Hal Hartley movies, I'd seen some Richard Linklater movies, but this was the first like independent movie that I really latched onto, because it was in black and white, because it was scratchy looking without all the sound. That one spoke to me like, oh, that's film. But two, in watching that, I was like, I could do this, was the simplifying feeling of that, because I wanted to do that, you know?
Yeah.
And you didn't have to be Hal Hartley. You didn't have to be Allison Anders. You didn't have to have technical know-how. And, you know, the movie's not easy to replicate. You know, I'm sure it's not easy to just up and go and do this now, maybe digitally. But he did this on film. And he had this, you know, the story of the making of this is fascinating, how they filmed it at night. And that's why the shutters are shut, and how they put it together. But, you know, so obviously it was work, but it looked like anyone could do it. And I think why that worked for me is it looked like anyone with an ear for dialogue could do it. Because his script is still at the heart of this to me. It's the script of this movie and Dante and Randall's performances. And that's all I needed, because I wanted to be a writer. And here was a script that I wish I had written. A script that my ego always got inflated when friends said it sounded like something you would write, which I'm sure it doesn't, but I get it. I don't think I could have written that at that point. But that's, you know, that was so that's really influential, not just in the moment of, okay, I can go back to college and try this, even though I didn't follow through, but just in general to where we are now doing like this podcast and stuff. You can do this. Anyone can kind of do it. And that, I don't think about that enough, but that was groundbreaking to me, that this movie looked, sounded, and had that story behind it. So he represented that. Because he's probably, 5 years older than us, I think? He was born in, 70, 71 maybe?
Yeah, that would be 4 years older than me, 3, 4, 5.
Yeah, so we're
right
the
in there.
same.
Those
Okay,
numbers.
those are all numbers, and those are all numbers we can relate to, and we're in that bracket. So, I don't know, this movie validated both this creative pursuit, which I think I probably didn't need at that time because I thought I'm doing it, but it's good to have. It validated the creative pursuit, and it validated my public existence. And that was important. I think seeing this, the moment I saw this on VHS at my friend's, I went out and I rented it again. I watched it again. And when I got back to college, this movie was on my mind, and Kevin Smith was on my mind. Did you know the name? Like, did you think it's a Kevin Smith movie? Did you have interest in finding that out? Or was it just this little film that you saw?
I think for me, it was just this little film. Yeah. I don't think I had caught on to the Kevin Smith aspect of it. I was aware that he was Silent Bob in the movie, that he was the director, and I knew that, but I still didn't think of it as a Kevin Smith feature, and I wasn't looking for the next Kevin Smith movie to come out. It wasn't something I was thinking about.
Like, he might have been the first filmmaker after Spielberg and the people in the 80s that I wanted to follow, that I wanted to know about. And he only had Clerks at that point. But I was so into this that summer, the summer I saw Clerks on VHS, I remember going to see, do you know the movie Species? That kind of alien ripoff movie, Species. Did you see that?
Oh, yeah.
You see that movie?
Yeah. I've seen
It's bad.
most
I think
of
it's
it.
bad. But
yeah.
I saw it in the theater, and back in the day, before the movie started, they would show you little slides on the screen. Like stills saying, it's Tom Hanks' birthday, or this movie's in production, like little just trivia stuff to kind of build up to when the movie starts. And I remember one of those stills, one of those slides, was a picture of Kevin Smith in his Silent Bob garb in color behind a camera and some people in front of him. And the caption was kind of like filmmaker Kevin Smith working on, second upcoming film, Mallrats or something. And this was in the summer, and it was a little shot of him working on his next film. And I committed that to memory. I was like, he's making another movie. That I have to see. I wonder if it's going to be enough. Now it's looking at the mall, the way he worked at convenience stores. So when we came back in 1995 to our junior year, were we roommates? We weren't roommates that year, were we? I don't think we were.
Junior year, no. I had a single.
You did? Okay.
6.
So we came back, and I feel like we came back kind of, at least for me, I was a little more mature. I felt like I fit in. I knew how the school worked. I was figuring out who I was, and one thing that I wanted to be at that point was like a screenwriter. I think I had switched my degree by then to creative writing with a focus on screenwriting. And Kevin Smith was sort of this ideal badge for that. Like, he can do it, I can do it. So I remember coming back, and so we get back in September, October of that year, October 20th, if I'm correct, which is actually, it was my 20th birthday. His second movie hit the screens. The movie that I had seen the slide for in front of Species, Mallrats, came out that year, and it came, and
did you get to watch it on your birthday?
we didn't watch it on my birthday. Do you remember? We saw it together. We went to see it together.
Yeah.
I think we saw it.
I do remember
We
that.
saw it. Do you remember where we saw it?
I don't remember where we saw
it in a mall
Mallrats.
movie theater. The Copley Mall, they used to have a movie theater in there. We had to walk past all these mall shops to see it.
Okay.
It was probably the second week it was out. It was probably late afternoon. Probably, it might have been a weekday, to be honest. That I don't know. But it was a very sparsely populated theater. There weren't a lot of people in there.
Yeah.
We went in and we saw it. And from the very start, the movie starts with a little monologue, but then it goes into this squirt gun song social with all these comic book covers representing the actors for the opening credits. And from that very opening credit sequence, I fucking loved this movie. I the whole time in the theater, I was just taking it all in. Like, what was your sense of it? Do you remember seeing it? Do you remember going with me to see it when we went together?
I do remember going to see it with you. I know I saw it with you the first time. I remember enjoying it. I don't know that I fucking loved it. but I liked it a lot.
Oh my God. It's.
And I think I liked it more. I ended up liking it more and more with our subsequent viewings over the years.
Yeah, because this movie was not cared for when it came out. This movie was trashed. It didn't gross. I think it grossed less than Clerks grossed. Not that you necessarily have to measure it that way, but I remember being surprised that people didn't like this film. And I get it in a way. I mean, like, it's a less personal film than Clerks. You know, it's
right.
stagier. It's a little broader. And, you know, with what we were just saying about Clerks, in a way, this movie was a little bit out of his grasp, I think, as a director at that point. You know, I feel like this movie needed a little more guidance to be the film that I think he wanted it to be. But I still loved it, you know. I think this movie cemented his knowledge of comic books. This movie cemented his love for comic books. This movie gave us Jason Lee as a character, Brody, who is this comic fan. And I will tell you that if Clerks kind of reflected a bit of who I was in terms of, you know, like working at a store and talking like this movie, Mallrats, this gave me the template of, at the time, who I wanted to be. You know, that Brody character, how he talked, how he wore comic books on his sleeve, how he was more snotty than nerdy. That I so wanted to be that character.
Jason Lee and that character, and Jason Lee in general for a few years there. That was my introduction to him. I loved his delivery, his whole persona in this movie, and a few of the subsequent other things he's done. This was my little Jason Lee intro. And I don't think he's gotten, you know, I mean, he was basically the same character in Chasing Amy, maybe? I can't quite remember.
There's some differences there, but he's playing something that a
little more depth?
Well, I think and then when we get to Chasing Amy, I think there's some differences. I think he's more of a main character in that than actually he is in this, even though he's one of the head characters. But, you know, this is again, a broader comedy. This is his attempt to make John Hughes movies or Fast Times at Ridgemont High. And, again, I don't think it works because... You know, Clerks had that ramshackleness, if that's a word, and that was part of its charm. But, you know, watching Mallrats multiple times, and I've watched it multiple times, it starts to look a little amateurish. Like there's mistakes in the movie, and there's staging that doesn't work, and you know, it looks really well lit. It's got its big pop soundtrack, and you know, its big ensemble budget in this big mall, and. You know, it's not
Shannon Doherty's.
Shannon Doherty is in it, which is amazing, you know, but I just, in a way, it's a bigger film than Clerks, so I get that, and maybe he wasn't up to that pace. I feel like structurally, internally, this is more of a first film, you know, and then maybe you would have matured into Clerks. It didn't go that way, but I just kind of feel like something about this is sophomoric. It's his second film. There's something about it childish. And I think that's fine. I think that maybe is the direction he's gone in later years. I still love this movie. I don't think I connected the way I connected with Clerks, but I do think this movie sparked the notion that comic books are badass. You know, I feel like this got comic books as pop culture into a conversation, and I think we owe the movie that. And again, it's weird because these characters, they're not working. It's the other side of hanging out. They're wandering the mall. You know, him and his friend T.S., they're going out for a day. It's another movie that takes place in one day. It's another movie about friends talking with friends. And maybe because I was at college at that point, and I know I probably had a college, you know, job. What do you call those jobs where they're helping pay for your tuition? What are those called? Work study or something like that?
Work study.
So I had that, but my life was more rambling at that point. So maybe that's why I connected with it. Have you gone back and watched Mallrats? Like, is that something you ever returned to?
No, I have not returned to Mallrats. Since departing your company.
Really?
Yeah. And again, that might be because of access. Again, it's not a movie I have. So that might be it. It could be the type of thing where if I'm sitting here and suddenly I see that it's on cable or something, I'll stay and watch it. But it's not something I've sought out. I certainly loved watching it time and again with you.
You did. Did we watch it a lot?
We
did kind of go back to it a lot, huh?
I feel like we did. We watched it. We went through a stage. I remember a lot at the basement apartment. Yeah. We'd watch it there a lot. Mm-hmm. That and Pizza.
I remember watching Pizza, yes.
Yeah, we would stare at pizza for hours.
Are there characters in movies that you wanted to be at that age? Are there people or TV shows that you're like, I want to be? Because this Brody really was who I wanted to be. And I'm sure I copped stuff for him. But was there anyone that spoke to you?
Oh, I'm sure there are. And if I had a few more moments, I might be able to think of some. But yeah, I'm sure there are. I mean, I've said this before, which is weird. When I was in high school, I wanted to be Harry from When Harry Met Sally.
That's a very strange weird, thing. I mean, but what's the mindset there? Because I think that's a good example. Because you're younger than him. But
yeah, the mindset there was just to be, quick-witted, just charming, and have this. Even though he had a sense of confidence with other women, and then he wasn't confident with the woman he ends up being with. There was
Sally,
something about
I believe,
him.
Is her name? I think.
Yes, I think
Sally.
her name is Sally. So yeah, like he just seemed to be what an adult man should be. Even though he had his faults, I felt like everybody should have their faults. His came with a sense of humor, and that's what I liked.
And like, do you do this still? Like, do you relate? Do you think the pop culture characters, not the artists, but the characters still in this sense?
Probably to an extent.
Like who? Who would you think?
But
like, what's an example?
I don't know that I've consciously thought about it.
No? Do you ever want to relive some of these? Like, do you ever think like, oh, I wish I had more opportunity to be Harry? Or I always think of Chandler from Friends for you, which I don't think is a bad comparison.
Yeah.
But that's someone who, and I don't know if you were, but I always saw a connection there or a similarity there.
Oh no, yeah, totally. I would, especially with the women,
Right.
I would accentuate my Chandler tendencies because they dug it. They liked it.
But there must have been something of you in that at the same time, right?
Oh, sure. Yeah. Like, I mean, that was his sense of humor. The dry wit was my sense of humor, I think. I've been told that often. I deliver a punchline with little feeling, and it makes it funnier. I guess. I don't know.
Where's that rim shot button?
But yeah.
But do you do that now, do you think? Do you ever find yourself being like, that's a Chandler gesture, or that's Harry-like? Or do you hit an age where maybe that's just not something you do because you're not?
I think for me, it's not necessarily the age, but I hit a fatherhood. Mm-hmm. And so I think there's characters that I didn't relate to before that maybe I relate to now from a fatherhood aspect.
Like Darth Vader? Do you really learn to Darth Vader now?
Really, it's really about Darth Vader and really getting the girls on my side. But no, it's like Steve Martin in
Parenthood.
Not Parenthood because I haven't seen Parenthood.
Oh, really?
But Father of the
Bride.
Bride.
Seen him in Parenthood. I haven't seen Father of the Bride.
I should see him in Parenthood. But Father of the Bride.
Because your daughters are getting married at 10.
They're not, but man, it's so easy for me to project ahead and see where things will be. Oh my God, this is kind of unrelated, but I cried at work, kind of like sad happy tears.
Do you want me to stop recording? No, I'm just joking.
No. I read through a thing where it's like, oh, here are some beautiful things from humanity, which I really needed. And one of them was a father who found out he was terminally ill, and he arranged for flowers to be sent to his daughter every birthday until she was 21, and it just destroyed me. And so that's those types of characters now. So I'm still doing it.
I mean, that's not a character. Apparently, that really happened.
No, but the long way to answer your question is yes, I'm still doing it. I don't think that I'm.
So you want to be that? You want to be that character? You want to be a terminal father sending flowers to his daughter? That's something you want to be?
I want to be a father that's thoughtful enough to do that.
Well,
to know that if I were in that situation,
really,
it was just because it was recent.
But that's not a fun. Honestly, is that a fun persona to be? The dying father sending his flowers? Is that something you would want to embrace and be?
No, I don't want to be the dying father, but I do want to be the father that, because the person who posted that was the daughter. I do want to be the father that, regardless of being alive or dead, connects that strongly with
But that's what you're getting it from, this sadly sad posting of mortality.
Unfortunately, I don't have my schedule doesn't allow for me, unfortunately, lately to watch a lot of pop culture and to experience more of these characters. Like literally if I have a second to watch something, I go back and I watch, old Friends episodes, old Office, old ER. I haven't really experienced anything new recently, and so I think the reason I brought that up is just that's just something I happened to see this week.
Huh.
So how pathetic is that?
No, it's not pathetic. I think you explained, you go back to stuff from before that, because maybe that speaks to you. I guess because I'm wondering, it's like, these Kevin Smith films spoke to me because I was that age. Prior to that, I was looking to Richard Lewis because he's, this older guy, I want to be an adult. You're looking to Harry from When Harry Met Sally, older guy, he wanted to be adult. Now that we're in our 40s, I mean, where is the age-appropriate entertainment, and do we want to watch that? Like, you were talking about, and I think I may have cut you off, or this gentleman dying may have distracted us from it. Father of the Bride. You watch Father of the Bride. That's from the title, I'm assuming there's a dad in that. Is that the drawing point to that? Because he's playing a protective father, I assume, a comically protective father.
Comically protective, and I think that's still at the heart of the characters that I am drawn to and relate to, is that they are funny and they have a sense of humor. And I haven't seen Father of the Bride in a long time. That's just the kind of connection I have with fatherhood now. It's like, even though I'm not seeing it recently, and even though I don't have like new characters to reference, the ones that I remember from my youth are the fathers now. I'm kind of going back to that and thinking about them.
Oh, so I never noticed father figures in the stuff I watched. And I really still don't, I don't think. I mean, there are some good fathers that I notice, but it's always in the context of like an action movie, a science fiction movie. Like I don't seek out, I guess Modern Family would be the one thing. I do watch that and I get touched by that. I guess, I get touched by the Goldbergs. I do get touched by these things, but I'm not relating to them, I guess. And I'm wondering who are the 40-somethings I relate to? And I don't think I'm going to that way. I don't know. Like I'll watch shows like Mark Maron's show Maron, or I used to watch Californication, and I see these, and they're both older than I am, but as I'm getting there, these 40-somethings struggling with it, like they're struggling with like a stunted childhood, struggling with maturity issues, struggling with being liked by other people. And I think I go to that like I went to Brody and Mallrats back in the 90s. Like that's now who I go to, because they're funny, because they're, again, better than everyone else, because they're commenting on everyone else. They're the center of these shows, so they're pointing out the fallacies or problems with the world around them. And because and this is that trope that is a bad trope in writing, a bad trope in entertainment. The jerk can't get his shit straight, but we want him to. Like that's how many times are we going to watch that? Honestly, and I do, and I identify that because I must identify with something with that, and that after a while, it's like that's stunting my growth. Like I'm thinking I'll just fumble my way into maturity. I'll fumble my way into owning a home. I'll fumble my way into to doing the right thing for comfort, or not even for comfort, because I don't want comfort, but just doing the right thing to keep living, because that's what these people did, and it's heroic because they're the centerpiece of the show, similar to Brody, or similar to, I think, the next film, because I think if we get out of Mallrats and we get into the next movie, Chasing Amy, that's a movie, that's the Kevin Smith movie, and my relationship with that is so entwined in everything we're talking about. I mean, let me ask you, you've seen Chasing Amy, right? You've seen this movie?
Yes, I have seen Chasing Amy. I've seen the Chasing Amy poster more than the movie.
Sorry. I mean, that makes sense to a point. If it's on your wall,
it's just always there. Yeah.
Did you see it in the theater? Did you see what it came out?
I don't think I saw it in the theater. No.
Really? Did you have an interest in Kevin Smith after Mallrats to see this?
Yeah, no, I did. I was interested, but I can't recall seeing it in the theater. What year did it come out? Because I had some transition
97.
years. Yeah,
1997, right before our graduation, April 4th, 97, I think was the release date.
And I was in L.A. That semester. And I don't know that I was with a group of people that when I didn't have a car, and I didn't like driving in LA at that time. So if a bunch of us were going to hang out, we would go with this guy or that guy that had the car and drove. And I don't remember them going to see Chasing Amy. Then when I moved back to Boston, so it'd been a couple of years after it came out. That's when I saw it, when I was living with you again.
Oh, so the first time you saw this with me.
I believe so, yeah.
How did I present it? Or did I present it, or was it just something we randomly watched that night?
I think it was probably something we randomly watched. I think you're good about not doing exactly what you talked about earlier and trying to sell a movie to somebody. I think you were just aware of its quality, and you knew me, and you were like, let's just put this on, and we'll all have a good time.
I want to tell you, I put that poster up to kind of psych you into wanting to see it. No, okay. Well, that's good, because this is a movie I pushed on people in an obnoxious way.
Really?
Not the biggest. The biggest movie I pushed on people was a movie called Kicking and Screaming. Not the Will Ferrell soccer movie, but the Noah Baumbach movie.
You pushed that on me.
Okay, see, I did. So, okay, maybe this one I didn't. No, yeah. I don't know. Chasing Amy, for a while, this was my favorite movie. This was a mature Kevin Smith. This was art house Kevin Smith. This was also, though, it was Clerks with color film, and it was Clerks with a little bit more skill in that. It still isn't the most fancy looking movie, but it looked, to me, this is what an independent film looked like. And it balanced his comic book minutia with actually, I think, saying something. And I don't know what it was saying. Might not have aged well. Or might be something different. Either way, I think it's important. I actually, before we recorded tonight, I started rewatching this. It's on Stars right now. It's streaming on Stars, everyone. So I started watching it again because I was curious, because this is a movie. The plot of Chasing Amy is basically about a comic book artist who falls for this woman who's in the movie presents as she's a lesbian. He falls for her. They become good friends. He tells her he's in love with her. She reciprocates, and then they have trouble maintaining this couple because her lifestyle as bisexual, as it's presented in the movie, is more than he can handle. And that's the plot of the movie. And at the time, it was groundbreaking for me. We're 4 years at Boston. I'm living my life. I'm meeting all sorts of people, the diversity of life that isn't just small town Connecticut. But this movie, it's a male fantasy. This movie is, I think, your typical sensitive male fantasy. It's again, it posits a film or posits a world where a guy falls for this girl, and after 2 conversations, really, when we watch the movie, and due to an impassioned, lengthy monologue that he gives her with no space for rebuttal, he basically convinces her to fall in love with him because he can't control it, Alyssa, the focus of his crush, is this lesbian comic book artist. And that's the thing. She's presented as lesbian comic book artist. That's important to the plot. And she serves to educate him in a more sensitive understanding of the world at large and open up his mind. And I think because she opens up his mind, I think that's why he falls for her, And I was surprised when I heard that not everybody enjoyed this movie. I thought this was the most honest film in the world, and this is how relationships work, and this is the struggle of relationships, and look at this character. But a lot of people point out the fact that, well, no, this is how people manipulate people in their relationships. This is a story about a guy turning a gay woman straight, which it's not. I guess she's never been with she has been with a guy before. She is bisexual. I don't think it's stated that way in the movie, but that's what the character comes across as. It's manipulative. I can see why it wasn't embraced by everyone, but this film was, in a way, kind of my life, and that's not a good quality or trait. But it was reflected in the movie, because this is kind of like, I saw in this movie this thing that I had, which was, it's hard to have a female friend when you're this lonely, guy attracted to women thing, And I think that part of the story I connected with the Holden character. And I think also when I saw it, I just thought, what a progressive movie. I'm in college 4 years. I now know how every lifestyle works. And I don't know, for a fan base that likes dick and fart jokes, this is a very progressive movie. And I think it showed some maturity in Kevin Smith, but it's still a male fantasy, and it still does that thing that people do when they want to write a diverse cast without doing their research. Alyssa, the character Alyssa, Joey Lauren Adams, who plays her, gives a great performance, but her actual character lacks any flaws or any depth. She's likable as a tool.
Yeah.
You know, she's there to socially illuminate something. And I think a lot of the gay community did not care for the film because of that.
Sure.
And I don't know. I mean, what are your thoughts on this movie? What do you think of this movie?
Well, I don't have a strong relationship with the movie. I enjoyed it enough when I saw it. I don't think I went back to it that often. I think
Really?
if we were, I don't think I did. And in fact, maybe a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, I saw that it was streaming, and I did start it, and I couldn't really finish it. I didn't want to continue.
Really?
Yeah, it didn't grab me, and it didn't remind me of it being what, again, like you're saying, felt like more of a groundbreaking Kevin Smith movie, like his next, he's elevated himself a bit. It didn't strike me as that. The dialogue I didn't care for at this second or third viewing, whichever it's been. Yeah, so I haven't seen this one a lot. It's not a movie that I have a huge memory of. I do find a stark white giant head of Joey Lauren Adams to be very beautiful, but the movie itself, I've not really connected to.
Huh. See, I thought I was going to have that experience because when this movie came out, I mean, I saw this like 5 times in the theater. I kept going back to this movie. Yeah. As a Christmas present, I remember, because my mom was working at a high school, one of the gifts I got, they had rented the movie, copied it on a blank tape for me, so I had that because I wanted this fucking movie. I loved this movie. I dissected this movie. I watched it all the time. I played it over in my head. I was writing my own version of it, I'm sure, ripping it off as a screenplay. And, it's the thing is, like, I thought it was groundbreaking, I thought it was showing something, and I think there's a struggle in it, and I like that. But I also had not gone back to it in a long time. Like, I think I finally just stopped watching it in the early 2000s when I was starting to stray a little bit from Kevin Smith. So, I wasn't going to watch it. I thought we'll just talk about it. And because looking at it, I'm like, I get it. It's, in a way, probably what I was relating to is that this movie reflected some of the more dickish aspects of my 20s. Like, in a way, the hero of this movie, Holden McNeil, the Ben Affleck character, is the side of myself that I know I had at this point that was, basically shouting, I'm sensitive, to the world, I told you I love you, now love me, that, like a trend of my life. This film shows that, shows that idea of the heroic 20-something who thinks he knows the world and the world owes him for that. But in this, I wasn't sure till I watched it tonight. Because when I watched, I didn't get all the way through to it because we had to record, but I was really touched by this movie going back to it tonight. From the very start, it took me right back to 22, 23, which is the age I was when I got into it. Like, it just hit me right away. Only this time, it's like all the feelings were there, all the experience was there, but I realized, okay, this is adolescence. This is an adolescent's crush. This is an adolescent understanding of love. This is a selfish, individually drawn view of relationships. And I didn't finish it. I didn't get to the end of it tonight, but it's like, I related to it at that time because that's where I was at, but I'm past. I've not passed, but I've evolved from that, developed or experienced from that. And I don't know if it's intentional. I don't know if this movie means to show that flaw. I don't know if we're supposed to think Holden is heroic, if we're supposed to think he's what I think he is now. I don't know, but it's a good representation of a bad character trait. And if I'm remembering right, it ends how it should end, which is with them not together, and I like that. But watching it tonight, the parts that I saw, what hit me along with that is, and I kind of forget this, is that like Clerks, and also like Mallrats, this has really got that best friend buddy thing going to it. The Jason Lee and Ben Affleck characters. Not Jay and Silent Bob, who we haven't talked about at all yet. I know they're funny characters, but I could care less about them at the moment. Holden and Banky in this movie, much like Dante and Randall, they had that sort of friendship that threatens any third party that wants to come in, With Dante and Randall, it was sort of destructive because it kept people at bay, but it was still there, and they're still close friends. With Holden and Banky is hurt the moment Holden expresses interest in someone else. And it's like, I totally get that. And the thing is, Kevin Smith also gets that, He gets how simultaneously powerful and detrimental a friendship like that can be. And I think he knew that at the time. I think he knows the ups and downs of that. And I think this movie, more than the romance with Alyssa, I think if it's about Holden, if it's about Holden and Banky, I think it's very powerful because I think their dichotomy as friends is something that I've had until I finally got into the relationship I'm in now. I feel like I've always had that best friend who was hard for other people to get through. And I think Holden's experience of thinking he's more open-minded than he is and being thrown by that ultimately, I think those are good. That is a self-awareness. I think Kevin Smith was writing himself, but also writing the male adolescent audience, writing to his male adolescent audience with this movie and saying, this is something that you are going to have to work through. This is your struggle. And it came to me at just the right time because I thought this movie was so heroic and so beautiful. And I find this happens with a lot of things from childhood and from my 20s. The movie itself, when I get older, shifts. My interaction with it shifts, or my view of what it's saying shifts. But all the same emotions are there. All the same character and character beats are there. It's just my perception now of what that is different. And this movie still holds that for me, which is probably disappointing to a lot of people because, again, I don't think this movie has aged well. I don't hear it talked about a lot.
Yeah.
But I think it aged beautifully, and I think it is what it needs to be, faults and all.
You make me want to go back to it, Tim.
Yeah?
Yeah.
I don't know. I was talking about earlier about my relationship with Clerks. I don't think I had a relationship with a movie like this before. Like Chasing Amy was so, I thought, educational to me in how the world works and what it really was. And I can see now is it was educational to me in how I viewed the world at the time. And I'm glad that I've drifted from that, or again, I've not evolved, but I've learned different things, similar to maybe what Holden was going through a bit. But I don't know, it's still a very male-driven story.
Right.
And it's still a male fantasy story. And I do get that, but I think it's a beautiful-looking film. I do think it's still very funny, and I think it's very much of its time. And I don't mean just the 90s, I mean of that time of my life. They're a little older than I am in the movie, but not by much, so that 20-something, I'm going to be all out. Again, it's like transferring from the countertop of a job to the tabletop of a bar where you're just philosophizing about everything. Yeah. I miss that. I miss doing that. I think we used to do that when we were out, sometimes for shows, sometimes for real, but we did it.
We did.
I mean, do you do that now? Do you have circles of friends that you seek out and have conversations with now that are like that?
No, I don't. I am sad and alone when I'm not with my family. So I really do not. I have lost all aspects of that part of me. Yeah, I'm a very cheerful man this evening.
Well,
in this conversation.
But I mean, it's an honest thing in the sense. Like, can you hold on to that after a while? Like, does this continue? Do people have the close, like, inseparable friendship and a marriage, and kids and a relationship?
People seem to. Some people seem to.
I mean, not who by name, but how does that work? Who has that?
I'm just referencing and just what I see from friends around me, or not friends, but people I know, people I see. There are circles of friends, some of which are from college, some of which are my friends, that are so much closer to each other than I am with any of them or anybody else. And they've made that last, and they're parents now too, but they're still making it go. I am outside of that.
Okay. I mean, maybe. I guess I don't get how that happens. I mean, it's depressing to me that this sort of intimacy doesn't exist. Because that's what it was. These movies are about a certain friend intimacy. And I'm touched now, retroactively, by your sentence earlier about how you think of these movies in conjunction to me, because this, I think but I saw a lot of our friendship reflected in these movies in that sense. Obviously not exactly the same way.
Yeah.
I don't
But we
think...
certainly played it up too, I think, like you've been saying all along. It's like a lot of that is already inherent in us and our relationship, but then when we see the epitome of it on in a movie or on screen, we play to that to kind of, I think, bring out what we might consider the best of us. Do we have time for Dogma?
No, we don't, which I think is okay. I know it's not his full body of work. He often talked about his Jersey trilogy, and I think these three are probably good because, honestly, and I'm glad he's okay. I hope he's okay. God, I hope nothing further happens to him in between recording and when this goes up. But because the thing is, looking at the 90s, for me, and I'm going to ask you your own thoughts, Kevin Smith hit me at precisely the right time. More than anything else in my life, he hit at just the right time. And possibly no other time would have worked out. I mean, entering college with no intention of being there or wanting to be there, and wanting to make art without the know-how of how to make it. And just loving all of this pop culture as real culture. And wanting to just talk about it and mouth off about it with my closest friends. I mean, these films, his stories, his productions, reflected and inspired those, but also kind of assured those. Like, he assured me that, no, you're an artist, even though it looks shoddy.
Right.
You're an artist, even though it's not wide sweeping, and you can use your little town, your little references, and you can make this happen. Clerks came at a time where I needed to feel something. I was home for the summer at a job I didn't want, and this made me remember, no, you're this at that job. Mallrats empowered me to talk about pop culture, and then Chasing Amy allowed me to pretend I was mature and in love and blah, blah, blah. But that cycle, that was the perfect time for it, for me. And I kept going back to them for years because they worked, and now, I don't know, they don't work exactly the same now, but why should they? Right. Why would they? They're of a period of time.
True.
I mean, what are like your closing thoughts on it? Was it difficult when I said this is what we're going to talk about? How did your mind wrap around that? What were your thoughts there?
Well, it's like I said before. It's more about not my connection to these movies, but my connection to you with these movies. So that's where my mind wrapped, and I think too, and we sort of talked about it at the beginning, Kevin Smith became a pretty prominent character in my life through these movies. And because he was close to our age and doing the things that we wanted to do and kind of reflecting people we know and people we wanted to be in his movies, I connected to him, and that era is very much a great memory for me. And so when I saw that he had a heart attack, and that I think one of the things he said on social media was that I could have died tonight. And for me to suddenly think that Kevin Smith may have been dead, this is like the first celebrity near-death thing that I've actually sort of really connected to. There have been others that I'm like, oh my God, that's a huge loss. David Bowie's a huge loss. Prince, huge loss. This near loss really surprised me, how affected I was by it. And I think it's because I enjoyed his movies and my time with you with his movies so much, and that was such a part of my youth. And to think that we're getting older and things are going away and things are in the past, and to think that maybe suddenly Kevin Smith as a human being was almost not with us, it really kind of struck me that so much of my past is really no longer with me, and will soon maybe even really physically not be with me. Yeah. And so that when you said we were going to talk about this, I'm like, okay, yeah, that makes sense. Let's do that. Let's talk about our Kevin Smith connection, and let's talk about our mortality a little bit. But I'm glad we didn't focus on the mortality too much.
Well, someday, because it won't be here forever. Yeah, no, Yeah, no, because I don't ever think about him anymore, or I hadn't. Or if I did, it'd be like, I wouldn't think of these films. I would just think about, okay, you're on Twitter, blah, blah, blah. But yeah, I was shooken by that too. And I don't know him, and I've never spoken to him. He's liked one tweet that I've tweeted. That was very nice of him. But not the one I tweeted to him, when I tweeted about him. But I don't know. He impacted a 6-year period of my life. The way I would put him, and I don't anymore, but I'm like, his impact is right up there with Paul Westerberg, Richard Lewis, Steve Martin, his impact. And so he's a human being. So yeah, he's still alive. I don't know how to process that because everything dies, but yeah. But I like what you said better. I don't know why I came in with that. Sorry.
No, I'm good. I look forward to hearing our end theme music now set to that slightly morose ending.
Yeah,
because it's so peppy.
It's so peppy, and if you like pep, if you like things that are upbeat, I'm sure they're out there. But if you like this show, if you like listening to a couple of 43-year-olds cringe at the mere thought of mortality, check out 20popcast.com. It's the main website for the show. Latest episode is always up there streaming, as well as links to all of our past episodes. Also has links so you can subscribe to it. You can subscribe to us on iTunes, on Stitcher, on multiple Android device aggregates, whatever they are. But yeah, if you like the show, please subscribe to it. You'll get a new episode every week. And if you happen to listen to us on something, say like about Apple Podcasts, if you could go in and give us a little review. They let you mark off a certain number of stars. They let you write a little opinion piece on it, a review as they call it. If you could do that for us, if you like the show, I guess if you don't like the show, that would be a big help. Egotistically, it's great to know that people are listening, and then in terms of getting the show noticed and heard by more people, that helps us out too. So if you could do that, I would appreciate it. You can always like the show on Facebook. You can follow me on Twitter at subcultist.
You can follow me on Twitter at RHCanning. And yeah, if you're going to take the time to write a little blurb, I'd ask you to also just sort of reach out and join the conversation. Let us know your thoughts and memories of Kevin Smith and his films, and we'll interact. We're right there. We're checking it out. So please do let us know you're there. That was desperate.
On the website, on Pop Talk. That was desperate. Very desperate. We're desperate. But thank you for listening. We'll be back next week. I think the music's still playing. Bob, why don't you didn't get to last week because you weren't here last week. It was just me, so no one listened to that. So why don't you close out the show this week, because I've learned to keep the ending brief.
All right, I got a new one for you, Tim. Ready?
I'm ready.
Squeak that chair.
Oh, I hope that sticks.
Man.
That's great. It's pretty great.
Did you even try to squeak the chair?
Oh, no. Okay, because I should have... No. Now I am. Now just rocking back and forth. It's not squeaking?
It's not squeaking.
All right. Squeak that chair, everybody. I'm not sure when to stop recording, because I'm wondering maybe the gold hasn't hit yet.
No.
Maybe the real comedy gold comes at the end of an hour and 23 minutes of recording.
Oh, no, it's good. We've already got it. We've got it locked in there somewhere.
We got it locked in there. Okay, I'll put it in the timestamp so that people just want the gold. They can dig it up right there. Squeak that chair. Maybe that'll catch. Maybe that's our thing now. Squeak that chair.
No. I'll try again next week.
Maybe you did try. Maybe this is what trying sounds like. Oh, that would have been the best time. I couldn't get the squeak. I feel like that. If that had been the sound, that would have been perfect. That would have been perfect.